As photographers, we want to believe that we're creating original work, but the reality is often very different. I was scrolling through Spotify a few days back when I spotted this album by Robbie Williams. What made me stop in my tracks was the cover art and this sinking feeling that one of my favorite photos wasn't as original as I'd always assumed. What's interesting though isn't just how similar these images are, but that my photo shoot took place just after I saw that cover art. And that can't be a coincidence. This reminds me of how opaque the creative process is, how little we actually know about where inspiration comes from. My unconscious had kept track of that cover art, waiting for the right moment to feed it right back into my conscious mind. But here's the thing, by then it had been completely scrubbed clean of context. So it felt like my idea, something that I'd created, not something I'd imitated. This reminds me of a story about Paul McCartney. He woke up one morning with a melody stuck in his head. He hummed it for days, but the melody wouldn't leave him alone. Getting frustrated, he started asking if anyone knew what song he was humming, but no one had heard of it. And for good reason. That melody became the song Yesterday, and he'd composed the entire thing in his sleep. Our unconscious mind doesn't share context with us. That's why ideas feel like they just appear magically, as if out of nowhere. And look, if you believe that, you're in pretty good company. Dante thought his ideas were gifts from the gods. Beethoven believed that muses helped him write music. And Nikola Tesla claimed that he could tune into some magical radio signal. What seems obvious is that we've romanticized the creative process because we don't really understand it. It's a black box. We really have no way of knowing how original any of our ideas are. And that causes problems. At the Sony Photography Awards a few years back, one of the finalists was accused of plagiarism. And you can see why. The similarities here are striking. But was this a conscious attempt at deception? Or did his mind just feed him an idea scrubbed of all context? This kind of thing happens a lot. In fact, it's happened to me more than that one time. I'm a fan of Joey L's photography. I've followed his work since his documentary on Holy Men came out about 10 years ago. This is one of the portraits we see him make in that doco. It's an image that looks very similar to one I made not too long after. Again, it felt like my idea. So when my photo was selected for the cover of Good Light magazine, I felt a little undeserving, almost as if I'd done something wrong, something unethical. But how do you stop this kind of thing from happening? How do you become more original? Well, a good place to start is by looking at what science knows about this black box. Researchers using fMRI scanners have demonstrated that we construct new ideas from past experiences. The memory region of the brain, the hypothalamus, lights up during creative thinking exercises. This research reveals an undeniable truth. Our romantic notions of the creative process are just that. The reality is that ideas don't pop out of thin air. They come from our memory banks. They're a direct consequence of what we consume and what we experience. By believing our creativity is dependent on some magical entity showing us favor, we're robbing ourselves of autonomy. We're giving ourselves an excuse not to create. And look, the truth might be less romantic than fairies, muses, and magical universes, sure. But the truth also gives us back control. From a creative point of view, we are what we eat. So where am I going with this? Well, I realized something last year. All that time I was spending scrolling my social feed, I wasn't just procrastinating. I was also becoming less creative, less original. As recently as, 3 or 4 years ago, when I was looking for inspiration, I'd seek things out. I'd let my curiosity lead me down Google rabbit holes, searching out new areas that piqued my curiosity. But social media put an end to that behavior. It made me a more passive consumer. When I scroll through those endless feeds, I'm letting an algorithm shape what I consume. The algorithm isn't curious, it's laser focused on showing me content it knows I'm going to react to, topics I've already engaged with, an echo chamber of my past consumption. So I did something. About a year ago, I capped my time on social to 10 minutes a day, total. It was hard, but it worked. It rejuvenated my creative work. It freed up so much time, an embarrassing amount really, time that I can now spend actively following my curiosity. Steve Jobs famously said that creativity is about connecting things. And we can't control how our brain will connect things, but we do have some control over the things it can choose from.